control in that, in that sense, than just like, well, I'm just going to put this out there and like, whatever, I hope this happens. I am responsible for making this happen as well. I am just as much a part of this commitment as whomever or whatever I'm trusting. That was a really different way of viewing it for me. So yeah, I mean, I had so many different things on trust that that became just totally life altering for me. But one of the other things I was going to say about the choice piece of the conversation was, for me specifically, the more choice just continually comes up over and over and over again. And I was sharing with Sil and Beena last time that for me specifically, I don't know if this is true for anyone else, but in my thinking things through and just the way that things have kind of boiled down for me, choice is the kind of common denominator for every other concept that has come along for me. Everything, if you think it through all the way to the end,
yes.
The denominator is choice in every scenario. So for me, choice has taken on this really interesting and specific role of being kind of the ultimate life lesson for me, of like, if there is any one concept that I feel like this human experience is about for me, it's understanding, comprehending, embracing, appreciating choice. That is like the root purpose of life for me. And that is so vastly different from what I think I would have said. You had asked me, like, what do you think the real purpose of life is a year ago? There is no way in hell I would have said choice. There is just absolutely no way that choice would have been the answer. So that is such a radically different view for me of things. And one of the things that we talked about last time, and I was expressing appreciation for Beena sharing this because it has really stuck with me. At several different points along the way, we have discussed the story of Adam and Eve, and that is always a really interesting discussion for me. And kind of picking apart just that whole part of Genesis and the Garden of Eden and everything. And at one point in the discussion, in one of the discussions, Beena shared that in the story of Adam and Eve that's in the Quran, there are certain similarities, but there's also a lot of differences. And one of the things that is really driven home, and Beena, you may have clarified last time that this might have been specific to you, but at least in her experience, one of the things that really stood out to her from this story was that kind of the point of Adam and Eve being banished from the garden or sent to earth was to grasp choice, to understand choice, and that that the angels live in a reality and an existence where they don't really get to experience choice. They are doing the bidding of God or Allah, and that's kind of their existence. Choice is not necessarily part of their existence. And in that case, in that context, humans are actually considered like the more blessed,
noble,
noble,
privileged.
Yes, I prefer privileged species.
Privileged, because of our ability to experience choice in this life. And that has really stuck with me because I think, like I said, I just think for me, in all of these various explorations that I've done, that is one of the things that makes life and this experience make sense to me, is that, if this entire experience is supposed to be about learning and growth and awareness and teaching us, that choice is like the very root of that experience. And that's actually one of the things. So my intent for this week is actually, so Sue, I've been setting a new intent for the week every Monday.
Nice.
And that has led to some really interesting discussions and discussions and things. So my intent this week is kind of an unusual one, and I was sort of dubious to set it because I thought, this is one of those things where I really need to be careful about my adding appropriate in basically every other word. But my intent this week, in a nutshell, is to learn about, sort of postulate on appropriately the concept of death, and to reach a place of peace within myself about death appropriately. I am not putting it out there to the universe that I want any inappropriate experiences with death. Appropriately, I want to explore sort of this concept of death. And I watched a really interesting video by Dr. Shefali where she was talking about death that was really interesting. But one of the things that has really stuck out to me so far in this journey on thinking about death is something kind of going off of what Dr. Shefali shared. It was such an interesting concept. She was saying we tend to think of death as this kind of singular event, right? Like we are living all the way up until the point of death, and we experience this thing, and it's really scary because we don't know when it's going to happen, and we don't know how, and we don't know what happens afterward, and all of that. And her point was, change your perspective, basically, to seeing death as something that is happening for us on a moment-to-moment basis.
Yes.
Right now, in this moment, we are dying.
Yes.
We are also living.
Yes.
You are not, and her point was, you're not experiencing death in the moment of, what we think of as death any more than you are right now. Death is happening for you right now just as much as it does at that moment. The only difference is that we experience something different physically in that particular moment. It's a transitionary phase of death.
Exactly, it's a transition.
So it's different, but in terms of just death as a concept, we are experiencing death right now just as much as we are when that transition is happening. So stop being afraid of death because you're dying right now. In this moment, death is happening for you, but so is life. And that concept, she was saying, when you think about it in that way, it really kind of forces you to live in the moment. Because if you see each moment as this dying and living kind of duality sort of existence, each moment presents an opportunity for you to choose something that is authentic to you. It kind of forces you to live in the now instead of seeing, well, death is this far away from me, so I have all of this time to get XYZ done. No, death is happening for you right now. So what are you doing right now in this moment to live authentically as your real self? And so that was a really interesting concept for me, of seeing it in that perspective. And I was thinking this morning about death, thinking things through, making sense of things. And to me, when you apply death in the context of choice, it makes sense to me.
Yes.
Death makes perfect sense to me as a leveraging tool to help us understand the concept of choice. If that, for me, in my experience, choice is the ultimate kind of life lesson that we're meant to be learning in this experience. And what better way to leverage us to understand the importance of choice than through death? because
Yes.
death is like the ultimate consequence, right? I mean, that's, I think, one of the big lessons to learn about choice is consequence. If
Yes.
there was no consequence to our
Yes.
choices, we wouldn't have the same
Precisely.
understanding of choice.
Precisely.
And death is the
Precisely.
ultimate consequence. I mean, if you look at any choice and the consequence of any choice,
Yes.
if you boil it down, well, if I do this, then this happens. Okay, well, what's bad about that? Well, then
Yes.
this could potentially happen. Okay, well, what's bad about that?
Yes.
Basically, all of it leads back to death. Death is the
Yes.
ultimate consequence. And if we didn't have that pressure, would we really understand choice in the way
Exactly.
that we do? And
Exactly.
it does leverage us to live in the moment. I mean, it leverages us to say, look, this isn't forever. You're not going to be in this experience forever. So do everything you can right now to be
Yes.
your real self,
Yes.
to elevate, to become more aware, to make use of and take advantage of every resource that's available to you in this experience,
Exactly.
in this school.
Exactly.
Do it now,
Right.
because there's something, there's an end point coming for you, and an end, as we see it.
Yeah.
And so to me, that choice is what makes death make sense.
Yes.
And it's a
Yes.
really powerful leveraging tool. And I was thinking this morning that for me, I thought, okay, so do I think that without death I wouldn't be able to understand choice? Could I understand choice in the absence of death? And I
Mm.
kind of came to the conclusion that I think it is possible. I think it is
Mm.
possible to understand choice in the absence of death. But I think in this experience, we need death first
To leverage us.
before we can, we need that pressure
Yeah.
to come to a certain understanding of choice. And once we've grasped that concept, then, no, potentially in the future, we don't need death to really understand the full consequence and gravity and power of choice.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, in the beginning of this experience, it's necessary. It's necessary for us to have
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
pressure to leverage us into understanding choice.
Yes.
So choice to me has become this like huge, huge life concept.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's
Yes.
fascinating how you just articulated that. One first thing, can you send me the link or whatever it is that you watch that program on?
Absolutely.
Is it on Netflix or just?
So no, she's on every social media platform, and this particular video actually was like Facebook and Instagram live that I just randomly happened to catch of hers. But she said that she saved it on Facebook, so I'll go find it on her
Okay,
page.
thanks. Yeah, no, I can really relate to that. I don't know if Sil or Beena told you, there's a huge connection right now for me with the whole death and choices.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the process of donating a kidney to an old friend of mine.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah. And we had a conversation a couple weeks ago about the whole death concept. I'm like,
Exactly.
I'm okay.
Right.
It is a choice. What I did is knowing that there is potential for my death and
Right.
that I am okay with that.
Right.
But in that choice, it really does make you look at everything that is day to day and how you
Absolutely.
are living, because things are dying.
Exactly.
Your skin is physically, your skin is dying, your liver is dying,
Absolutely.
plants are dying, memories are dying, people,
Yeah.
it's
Every
everywhere.
second is perpetually dying.
It
Absolutely.
is. Yeah, a second ago is lost, it's dead.
Right.
Yeah. But it's amazing how that choice for me of choosing this is the right thing for me to do. This was my impeccability. This was my
Exactly.
absolute
Exactly.
who I am thing,
Right.
and it was the right, for me, it was the right thing to do. Not for everybody.
Right.
Whether
And
it
this
goes to fruition, I don't know. But,
Exactly.
but it
Exactly.
really makes you look at
Oh,
the
yeah.
bigger picture. I was never,
Oh, yeah.
I've actually loved death in an odd way, in the
Mhm.
fact of
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. And when
Yeah.
people are transitioning, I love to be there to
Yes.
Yeah.
assist
Yes.
them in the beauty of it, not the
Yes. Yes.
Right.
severe sadness in
Yeah.
there.
No, it's a magical thing.
Well,
Exactly.
and that's for me,
Oh.
death. One of the reasons that I first started going to see Kathy, my whatever I don't even remember what term we came up for. We weren't calling her therapist, but you know, she's just another coach for me, I think.
Yeah.
Was because of my fear of death, really, is what it boiled down to. And that's been something that has come up many times in my sessions with Kathy, just kind of exploring thoughts on death and understanding of death, and bringing up fears that have been down in me about death from a very, very early age, and kind of exploring that concept. And that has been a big part of my healing process with her, I think, is getting closer to a point of being okay with this concept of death and not being so afraid of it. And so this intent specifically, I think, is a really important one for me,
Very
of
cool.
continuing to,
Yes. Yes.
and not that it's not that I didn't see death as a beautiful thing and as, a natural process, but I think for me, just that fear of the unknown
Yeah. Yeah.
has always been such a gripping thing for me. And that, I think that was why, to me, what Dr. Shafali was saying about don't think of death as this like singular event at some unknown point in the future that you know nothing about. You know everything about death. You are dying right now. You are
Yes.
experiencing death right
Yes.
now. And look, you're
Yes.
okay. It's you don't have to be afraid of it. It's not an unknown. It is a known.
It's just
You are
transformation.
experiencing it right now.
Right.
And that was a totally different perspective shift for me, of seeing it as something that is happening all the time. And it's not it's not this like weird ambiguous event that's happening in the future. But I was thinking, that is an interesting thing about death that makes sense to me, of why we don't know when we die, how we die. Because if we didn't, wouldn't that, that ambiguity helps us leverage choice. Not
Exactly.
knowing, not knowing when this is going to
Yeah.
happen, how it's going to happen, when it's coming, when this transition is going to happen,
Right.
means we sort of have to live every moment
Absolutely.
to its fullest,
Right.
because we don't know when that transition is coming. So would you stop, you little bugger? Get out of there. So that I think that has been and continues to be a really big thing for me, of letting go of a lot of the fear that I have associated with death.
And just to bring it a nice full circle here, we mentioned this last time too. Would you say that choice is synonymous with awareness?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
We were talking about that.
So, when we started in module 1, there's that session about awareness and it being the point and purpose of everything. Now you've just taken that and put it in. For you, it's choice, which is the same thing, really. You
Right.
cannot have real awareness without choice.
Right.
So it's choice or awareness. That's the point and purpose of everything. The whole universe revolves around you for the purpose of getting you to choose, because when you choose, you create awareness.
Right. Right.
And when we now connect it even further through that choice and impeccability, we say, my impeccability is there so that no matter what I choose, because I've chosen it impeccability, should it result in death, I'm okay with it.
Right. Right.
That's the impeccability. That's how we live, which goes even further now in that full circle loop to say, with this choice, with responsibility, with bringing death into it, the big totality, consequence, we say now we are starting to live deliberately.
Right.
And that deliberate living, that's precisely what you've been articulating and talking about. If we were to encapsulate all of what you're saying, all of these component parts, this toolbox that you're acquiring and the toolbox that you're sharing now, we're only on point 2. This is a toolbox for deliberate living.
Absolutely.
That's what the way of
And
impeccability is.
I think one of the really interesting things for me, and kind of where I was going this morning with choice sort of being necessary, or death being necessary for us to, at least for a time, for us to understand choice. Going back to, another really interesting concept for me from Way of Impeccability of seeing ourselves as sort of gods in training, or on the path to understanding our divinity. This concept of basically, and I can't remember who said this. It might have been Mel Robbins, something I was listening to of Mel's not too long ago. She was talking about how sort of unpleasantness is necessary in the context of us being able to appreciate pleasantness. If we just had pleasantness all the time, we wouldn't really fully appreciate it if we didn't have something to compare it to. And to me, that's one of the really interesting things about what I'm coming to learn about this experience of human life is, it seems to me that we are working our way toward the reality of our existence in perfection, minus all of these, minus death, minus pain, minus all of these things that are unpleasant for us. But in order for us to live in that reality appropriately and appreciate that existence, we have to go through this period of experiencing alternatives so that we can really understand and appreciate what's happening in the perfection. We wouldn't see it as perfection if we didn't have something to compare it to. And this whole experience is this really interesting learning ground of, these are the consequences of choice. Choice is power. It is an incredibly powerful thing, and it creates reality. If you don't understand the consequences of choice and deliberately choosing goodness, you can run into some serious problems if you just have choice and you're like, whatever, I don't understand why any of this would be bad. It's important to have that foundational knowledge when you reach a place where the ultimate consequence no longer applies, where death is not applicable anymore. If we just immediately existed within that realm, would we really understand the consequence of choice, or the power of choice? Would we be able to appreciate it? So it's I don't know, the whole concept of this experience as this sort of cultivated learning ground for us, this school that's teaching us all of these things that we need to know about the divine, really, to me, is a really, really interesting concept.
Huge.
And one of the things about choice,
it's like a free university.
Exactly.
The advantage of it.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
One of the things that we talked about last time that was cool, and I made a note about it, Sil brought up the E equals MC squared flipped equation again. And we were talking about, if choice creates reality, how do we interject choice into that equation? And so we were saying reality equal, so M, mass, matter, reality, equals energy divided by choice squared.
Yes.
Which we're calling kind of deliberate choice.
Yes.
So reality is created by dividing energy by deliberate choice, which I think is really interesting.
Exactly. I love it. It's so cool. Concept. It's so cool. Yes.
Very cool.
Very interesting concept.
It's magical. It's magical. And then too, when we look at this, I think there's a specific slide on this that says, you go through and it asks you the question at this point in time, do you know that all sorts of nonsense and weird stuff and crazy stuff's could maybe happen in the future? Not going to, but could. Yes, you know this. All right. Knowing that it can happen in the future, do you choose to continue living?
Mhm.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
we do. That's what you're saying. That's the choice. That's the choice we make. And the choice with death. And that's the choice of deliberate living. That choice to choose awareness. And then
Mhm.
you made another point that connects to this. If we don't choose goodness deliberately, freely, is it really goodness?
Right. Right.
You choosing goodness, what is supposedly the good choice, out of fear of punishment or promise of reward, that don't make you good. It just makes you
Right.
either greedy or fearful.
Well,
Yeah,
and
essentially.
I think to me, if we exist in a reality where there are no bad choices, where everything is good, does it carry the same weight and understanding for us when
Exactly.
we choose goodness? If we don't
Exactly.
have the option to
Exactly.
choose something bad,
Exactly.
do
Exactly.
we really have the same understanding? And I think
Exactly.
that is one of the things, and I think I
Yes.
shared this last time. One of the things that has been a really profound concept for me, again related to choice, is making sense of bad things that happen in the world. And I think
Yes.
that I feel like that is something that every person thinks about at least once in their life, of if there
Yes.
is a God, if there is anything or person or energy or whatever out there that is in charge of all of this, how is it possible that they would let these bad things happen, or that they,
Yes.
God forbid,
Yes.
create these bad things? Why
Yes.
would this happen?
Yes. Yeah.
And to me, this this idea, and I think one of the things that really made me think about it was Beena's, again going back to Beena's description of the Adam and Eve story in the Quran, and about humans being privileged in having choice.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because for me, that's one of the ways that it makes sense to me, is that we, in this reality, we truly have been given a major privilege by being given free will. We are
Exactly.
truly being given choice.
Exactly.
In this reality,
Exactly.
we can choose to do bad things. We are given the
That
ability
privilege.
to
Yeah.
choose that. We have true free will. And because we have that free will, choices are made, things happen, there are consequences, there are negative consequences to choices that are made. And
Yes.
that's part of this reality, right? And that's
Yeah.
one of the things I think is cool that Sil has brought up, that wouldn't it be neat if you were creating this universe to be able to take those bad choices that people are making and turn them into something good for the people that they're negatively affecting? And how do we see that actually play out in the world?
Yes.
Like, look for that,
Yes.
look for
Yes.
the good that comes out of what we perceive to be negative choices. But to me, all of that consequence, the negative choice, the free will, the bad things that happen because of our ability to choose, is kind of a necessary part of this process in order
Yes.
for us to be able to say
Yes.
definitively, I
Yes.
am deliberately choosing to do good. I'm choosing
Exactly.
goodness.
Exactly.
Because if
Exactly.
we were saying I'm choosing goodness because that's my only choice, that's different than I'm choosing goodness and I had the option to choose something bad and I didn't. It's different. So I think for me, again, that just goes back to this whole concept of choice, for me being kind of the ultimate lesson to
Yes.
learn
Yes.
in this experience of
Yes. Yes. Yes.
choosing for sure, but also specifically choosing goodness and being
Yes.
impactful, choosing
Yes.
what is good and right and appropriate for us
Yes.
in each moment.
Yeah. Couple points, just magic. Yeah, I love it. I love how wave impeccability, which has no connectivity to religion in any way, enhances whatever your personal beliefs are.
Right.
Now, that doesn't really make a difference whether they are religious or not,
Right.
but it enhances it. You find a way to make sense of the world. And
Mhm.
we deal about this capital M, capital S, make sense. We come up with it a lot. And having this ability to make sense of the world, huge.
Mhm.
Changes absolutely everything. And the key to that making sense is that profound conception, since we are, our center column are profound fractal conceptions. That conception of thinking things through to the end.
Right.
When
Right.
you think it through to the end, the world has to make sense. Now,
Mhm.
second point I have for the Titan of Trust here. You mentioned, yeah, Miss Titan of Trust. Well, you said about, well, and also the chieftain of choice too, right? Or the champion of choice. That's what we call you, the champion. I have lots of titles for Erica Jane, by the way. I don't know why, but she's got plenty of it. So, as the champion of choice and trust, we were given this ability to choose, or at least if you have this connectivity to Creator, from a religious point of view or any that perspective. All right. So you said, oh, we were given this ability to choose and to choose poorly and to choose badly.
Right. Right.
Now, does that not imply, from a trust perspective, that you've been entrusted, not given, entrusted with this?
Absolutely.
So there's a trust by God or by Allah or Brahma or whatever in you that you are going to use this power you've been given and that you're going to use it sensibly.
Right.
That is an implication that you have a bias towards goodness.
Right. Right. It's true.
To me, that implies that, well, you're not going to make this gift if you don't think the odds are stacked in favor of
Right.
good choices,
Right.
right?
Well,
So there's at least a bias there.
and I think the flip side of that too being that when we are choosing impeccably, when we're choosing deliberately, when we have gone through our process of thinking things through to the end, considering all perspectives, and we make a choice that we feel and believe is a choice of goodness. We have
Mhm.
an intent to goodness. We're making a choice impeccably. This is what feels right and appropriate to us. Part of the trust, I remember that being a big point from that life detective and trust section, that trust is kind of what happens when you've done everything else. And so,
Ah,
okay, you've done all of this work, you've reached this point, you've thought things through. The culmination of that, the output of that is a choice. You make some kind of choice deliberately. By the time you reach that choice, you've done everything that
mm,
you do to reach this choice, right? I have thought everything through. I've done everything in my power to make this choice that I believe is appropriate and good and right for me.
mm,
And so now I'm saying, basically, this is my intent, right? I've made this choice. This is my intent. And my new definition of trust for myself, mutual commitment to a shared intent.
mm.
Part of that trust is saying, okay, if I trust that I am good, if I trust that I am capable, if I trust that I am making good decisions and I have thought things through and I've been impeccable and I've done everything that I needed to do and I've made this appropriate choice, then I'm putting this intent out into the universe that,
Exactly.
whatever that I have done the right thing and that this is going to result in something good.
Hmm.
And the universe, you and the universe are now making this handshake, and you are just as responsible for your side of the handshake because you've done all of this work leading up to that choice. And now the universe is saying, okay, you're
Right.
trusting that
Right.
God, Allah, whatever, whoever is going to make that be a good thing, that there is going to be good that comes out of it. I am trusting that this was the right thing to do for
Right.
me. And part of trusting that is trusting that the universe is going to make that
Yeah.
be a reality. That's a big part of the
That's huge.
of the trust handshake for me.
And would you say in that too there, one of our, like you said, trust, you have a responsibility on when you're trusting. You got to do stuff when you're trusting.
Hmm.
For one, you've got to maintain that trust.
Right.
It's a
Moment,
constant thing.
moment to moment
And
doing.
two,
Yep.
you have to stay connected to your intent.
Right.
You can't just set it there and let it go. You have to stay connected to it. It's like we used that example of pushing a stationary car, and at first you push like crazy and nothing seems to happen. And then slowly it starts to move and it keeps going. And then you keep pushing, but you've got to keep that constant pressure. It doesn't necessarily go very fast, but that's the thing with intent. It's a slow thing. It's a lot of
Right.
stuff have to move. But you need to keep that constant pressure. Otherwise it stalls and you have to start all over again. So it's very important that our side of it when it comes to trust is absolutely key. I mean, before we even get to trust, we
Right.
have to be impeccable. That's the bedrock. Then
Right.
only, otherwise the trust is just, get out of jail free. It's an indulgence. So
Absolutely.
it's
Absolutely.
very huge.
Well, and I think one of the things that was interesting in the concept of things making sense and making that decision impeccably and everything is like we were saying earlier. One of the things, so that you were talking about was if whomever, whatever is in charge of the universe is taking basically all of our choices and turning that into something of value, right? Turning it into
Yes.
something good.
Yes.
Something good
Yes.
is coming out of all of
Yes.
these choices.
Yes.
To me, that is a big underpinning of the trust
Yes.
concept to me,
Yes.
that I'm making this choice, I'm creating this reality.
Yes.
I believe that I have done, everything within my ability to choose impeccably, to make an appropriate decision. But part of what I'm trusting is that the universe is going to make that reality that I've just chosen to create work for good no matter what. That
That's huge.
it doesn't really matter
No.
in the grand scheme of things whether the choice that I made turned out to be wrong.
Exactly.
If I made it impeccably, then
Yes.
I don't have to feel any guilt over that, right? I can say,
Exactly.
well, I did the
Exactly.
best that I could. But either way, even if I didn't make it impeccably, if I made a horrible choice for all the wrong reasons, the universe is going to make it work out for good either way. And that's a big part of that trust, and kind of letting go of some of that that over responsibility for me, that even if I make the wrong choice, I'm trusting that the
Wrong.
universe is going to, that the universe is going to make this work for good.
Yes, yes. In other words, fortuitous mistakes, that
Right.
concept in your
And
dictionary of power.
I think at that point, a big part of the importance of choosing impeccably and deliberately is not so much the outcome of the
Correct.
choice,
Correct.
but in how you feel about yourself
Yes.
as a result
Yes.
of that choice. Because
Yes.
if it comes out good
Yes.
either way,
Yes.
the only way that making that choice impeccably really matters is for myself, so that I can say it's a proof, it's self-proof of your own goodness, right? I proved to myself that I was impeccable, that I'm capable of making an impeccable, deliberate choice. The universe is going to make it work out either way. But for me, it's important to make that choice in an appropriate way, because it proves to me my own goodness.
Choices without impeccability is just no,
Right.
can't happen. Once you're aware of it, you can't do it.
Right.
And when you do them impeccably, then life is magical and life is easy. Just be impeccable and life is easy. It's so simple,
Right.
really. And that's, again, I mention this often, why the program is called the way of impeccability, not way of awareness, way of choice, way of trust, way of application even, but way of impeccability. It's that the glue, that thread that ties it all
Mhm.
together. It's very important. Very important.
I think that concept is one that really helps me with the thought of anxiety. Anxiety was something that was so gripping for me for so long, especially around choices. And coming to that new understanding of trust was really big for me in dealing with anxiety, because recognizing that I could change my mind if I, it was appropriate to change my mind and to make choices moment to moment. It's appropriate. That trust is something totally different than I thought it was. And it's not something that I'm doing just blindly. Like, there is a process, there is a process that I can follow to reach appropriate trust. And that it's going to work out for good either way. There's going to be value either way. The important thing is for me to use this as an opportunity to prove to myself that I'm capable of doing this, that I am being impeccable, that I can reach this point. That helps tremendously with anxiety, because I can now look back and say, I don't need to worry incessantly over every choice and decision I'm making all the time, because I've proven to myself that I can do this, that I can make choices impeccably,
And
that
you're
there's
good.
a process for me to follow. I've proven to myself that I'm good and that I'm choosing things for good, and that it's going to work out either way. So
Exactly.
what do I have to worry about? All I need to do is just do what I already know how to do.
And do it impeccably. That's the key.
Right. That has helped a lot with anxiety.
That's why impeccability is so transformative. It reduces anxiety, it reduces stress, it reduces worry, it reduces indecision. I mean, look how you were caught up in indecision, and basically you didn't do much, but yet you were making decisions anyway.
Right.
Right? It's amazing. So it just that again, impeccability, our chief definition, using energy to best effect. Right? Best use of our energy. Before, you were spending tons of energy to what effect?
Right.
You were making choices anyway, but you didn't get the benefit out of it. You didn't even get to enjoy your choices. So come on.
Yeah, and even look at the whole COVID situation when you talk about trusting that the universe, there is goodness. As bad as a pandemic is, there is, if we choose impeccably to do the right thing for us. And, for me in this time, it was being able to work on me, explore me. The world stopped.
Exactly.
I wasn't going to stop.
Exactly. Yep.
So you have to make that choice. Other people are making a choice to fall into the immersion bubble of the COVID negativity and spread the disease. So it is a choice. It is a choice.
I mean, is COVID not the universe bringing about a circumstance that says, hey, listen, dudes and dudettes out there, listen, folks, you better be impeccable, otherwise you're going to cause trouble.
Right. Absolutely.
It is the impeccability lesson. It's just too fantastic. It's just too magical.
Yeah. It's amazing how many people don't see it that way. Because they're caught up. They're in
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah. We'll keep sharing and spreading, and we aren't missionaries, but to understand that awareness is contagious, and that's a very magical thing. So very magical. All right, keep going, Erica. Keep going.
So, and I do have to, unfortunately, go in about 10 minutes, because we've got our roofing guy is coming over finally to discuss pricing on the roof that they completed 2 months ago.
Brilliant.
They did the work, and you don't know how much it is yet.
This whole thing has been, oh my gosh. Speaking of opportunities for learning things.
Brilliant.
I'm trying to see this in a positive way, but the roof experience has been a very interesting.
Wow.
Brilliant. All right. So we'll we can do point number 3 and then continue on Thursday. I'm hoping Sue can be again on Thursday.
We can work around whatever Sue's schedule is. Fine.
Will you be able to be on Thursday, Sue?
Let me get my phone and look. Hold on.
Okay. Because this is really huge, and I'm really, really thrilled, Erica, that we have the opportunity to do it all over again. It's so potent, it's so powerful, and it brings up what people said. But how can you do this like day in day out? because it's always magical every
Right.
single time. It's never the same. It's always magical. I learn so much every single
True.
time. Yeah,
And I really want to hear Sue's list now too.
Oh, absolutely. She set herself up now. Oh, of course.
I
Because
know, because I'm sure that there's all kinds of stuff on there that
not just Sue's, but also
everybody, Beena's,
Yes.
everybody's list. Yeah.
Everybody's. Yeah. It's a really cool conversation.
It
really
is.
is.
It is
It's
really
fantastic. Yes.
interesting.
Yeah. Thursday, what do you come on it? It would be 1:00 my time, the same time.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. I have to go to the dermatologist to get this cancer thing removed on my chest but I could do, but you don't like early or morning.
Well, it depends on what time.
Oh, I'm up at 5. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Or Friday. Are you around Friday?
Yeah.
Even during the open
Yeah, we can do this during Open Friday. That'll be fantastic.
Yeah, I can be.
Yeah. So how early can you come, Erica Jane? Like 2 hours before?
So we usually come for Joe at noon, right?
Right.
So yeah, that would be fine. 10 o'clock my time.
All right.
So that's 10 o'clock her time. What is that my time?
No,
your time. You're
11 your time.
Eastern, right? Pennsylvania's Eastern time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's 7 o'clock. Yeah, I have Diane Lawson. I'm going to do a Zoom.
No, it would be
11 a.m. your time.
11 a.m. my time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So
number 3.
We talked 3 is trust, which we've talked a lot about. I'm sure there's a million more things we could go into, but trust being a choice was the big underpinning of all of that. So
and
the
relationship.
4th thing, and a commitment, a mutual commitment. Yeah. So the 4th thing, and this one by far, I said this last time, with trust, with choice, with a lot of these things, I feel like so many things have come as a result of that. And I have a much broader understanding of those concepts. There's always more. I mean, I don't think I by any means have a final, understanding of it. But I think my 4th point on this list is the one that I feel I by far understand the least about. And I think there is so infinitely more exploration to be had at this point. But after the trust being a choice discussion, a ways after, I think Beena was the one that brought up the discussion about love and, kind of thinking about what love is and all of that. And I think at some point I had been thinking about that independently as well, because I remember thinking, we were discussing at that point in Way of Impeccability about sort of examining your beliefs and
yes, very key.
Not just taking all of these things that we have been told all of our lives on as a belief of ours specifically.
That came up in Gift of Doubt.
Yeah, to really look at everything that you think you believe and really think it through and decide, is it true that I really believe that? Or is this something that I think I believe because, so-and-so told me that this is the way it is or whatever. And so that was one of the things that had come up for me as well, was, to me, love is one of those like really fundamental core concepts that if you ask anybody on the street, do you know what love is? They're going to say yes, right? Like, of course, everybody knows what love is. But when you really break it down and start thinking about it, like what do you really think love is? Like, how do you define love? What is love? that's a really complex concept. And so we had been, Beena had posed that question of like, what do you think love is? And so we were talking about that. I was thinking a lot about it and kind of trying to wrap my head around, what do I actually think, like, capital L love is? What does it entail? Anything to do with it. And how much of my supposed understanding of it is based on beliefs that other people have told me. How much of my own belief do I really hold around what love is? And that really tripped me up, and it made me realize that I really don't have any idea what love is. I have lots of thoughts, but how many of them are really my own? And do I think that love is universally applicable? Is it something really unique to each person? And, how do I feel about this? And so one of the things that was kind of a foundational thing that came up for me that I've been using to further expound upon, I had a session with Kathy, and I think it was, we do a lot of breath work and hypnotherapy. It was one of the two. And I always get some really interesting kind of nugget out of these sessions. And so I had been thinking a lot about love, and I think that we had been talking about Adam and Eve, the story of Adam and Eve to a certain extent.
It came up quite a bit. Yeah, it's a cool story.
And talking about the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and all of that.
And the tree of life. Yes.
I think I still can't remember whether this just popped into my head and that's what made us talk about the Adam and Eve story, or whether we were talking about that and this came to me. But somehow or other, at the end of this particular session with Kathy, where I'd been thinking a lot about love, I'd been thinking about love in relation to choice. And I was kind of seeing love as sort of a result of choice and turning that over in my head. And so what really came up for me at the end of this session with Kathy was love is the fruit of choice. And I was thinking about that with, especially in relation to the Adam and Eve story, in a literal, like, fruit, the tree. If there was a tree of choice, love would be the fruit growing from that tree. And I was like, wow, okay, what does that mean? I need to unpack this. I need to think about it. And I truly feel like I have like scratched the surface of this discussion. There is so much more thinking, ruminating that I need to do on this subject. But that concept of love being the fruit of choice, I think, is a major fractal conception for me.
Is it just choice alone? Sorry.
I don't know.
Well, I want to ask you, is it just choice alone, or is it choice and goodness? In other words, if you take your tree analogy, it would be love is the fruit of the tree of knowledge of choice and goodness.
Right, it's possible.
The two go together.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you just took choice without goodness, you might not get to love. It is profound, ultimate goodness combined with choice.
And that was kind of part of what I had been thinking about in this topic. One of the things that really came up for me was when I was down at Maple Park, which is the park in our neighborhood that I go visit a lot, and there's these trees down there that I just absolutely love.
You shared one.
And I was down at the trees, appreciating them, just standing underneath them and looking up and just really feeling this major sense of appreciation. And I was thinking about how kind of amusing it was that I was like, I love these trees. I absolutely love these trees. And I thought, how many people really think about loving trees? But I thought, okay, that's an interesting concept, that because I am choosing to see the moreness of these trees. I mean, it's not just like, oh yeah, it's a cool tree. I love the tree because I see it, kind of capital S, see it, you know, I see its moreness. I appreciate its moreness. And that's a choice. I chose to see the goodness, the moreness, to appreciate that. And my reward for that is love. And so that was kind of, for me, the backstory of the love is the fruit of choice, that, you know, love is kind of the reward that I'm being given for making this choice to see the moreness and kind of open myself to experiencing the moreness of something as simple as a tree. And that was one of the things in this whole rumination for me, was where I was seeing trust as a handshake, that love to me was almost more like a beam of light. Like it's kind of a singular, one direction sort of a thing. Like you know, when I choose to see the moreness of something, and love is my reward for that.
Yes. When you
It
perceive
doesn't require
the of something. Sorry.
Doesn't require the participation of the tree, right? The tree doesn't, for all I know, the tree doesn't even know that I exist, right? It's
love
like,
is not a contract.
what?
Exactly.
Right, exactly. It's the tree's doing its own thing, and it doesn't really care whether I appreciate it or not, right? The love
But
that
I
I'm
care about your
feeling really
time.
has nothing, yes, the love really has nothing to do with the tree providing its consent for me to love it, right? It has not, they aren't related at all. The love that I'm feeling is purely and uniquely mine. It is a reward for me. And it doesn't require, it's not a handshake, you know, it's not a handshake. It is kind of a unidirection kind of a thing. And so that was like a really profound concept of me realizing, like, love really doesn't require, you know, to me, trust requires the participation of at least more than one party. And when it's self-trust, it's current or past, current, and future self trusting. You know, there's always at least more than one party. And with love, it's not the same thing. It's not a handshake. It is a really unique, it's self-sustaining.
Sometimes it's one-sided, like the tree, but doesn't mean you can't love it.
Exactly. And it doesn't require anything else to exist. Love just is.
Let me ask you real quick, because you got to go. Sorry to cut you off, but really quickly, because you said reward a couple times. But in the concept of what you said before, you know, power dictionary, superpower, this is your superpower dictionary. Superpower dictionary choice, concept number 2 of choice. Would you say love is the ultimate choice? It's not a reward, it's a choice.
Absolutely. Well, and I think for me, love is the reality that's created out of choice. If choice creates reality, love is the reality that's created from impeccable choices, right? I mean, to your point,
impeccable, good
not
choices.
all choices, right? But, you know, love is the reality that's created from an impeccable choice. It's the fruit of impeccable choice.
Choice founded on goodness,
and I think
stemming from goodness, right?
Right.
Okay.
I think for me, that concept of love being an inherently unique experience, that the love that I experience as a result of a choice that I'm making is not something that I can like transfer to someone else. You know, they experience love in their way, I experience love in my way. I can direct, you know, I can experience love based on my appreciation of a person or whatever, but it's the love that I'm feeling is my own unique experience. And that was why, you know, I was thinking, if someone else says they love me, the love that they're experiencing for seeing my moreness is theirs. It doesn't really have anything to do with me. So I don't need someone else to love me in order for me to feel love. It has nothing to do with that. I can feel love. I can experience love based on my choices,
you have
not
to.
someone else's choice to see me as valuable or to love me. And that's them. If they choose not to, then they're choosing not to experience love in that particular instance, but it has nothing to do with me. I, like I said, I still feel like I have so much
your
more
self-love
thinking.
has to be based on your own independence of being. Yes. It has to be. It has to be. Otherwise, it's not going to be very real. Real quick also, if we take point number 1, we go 1 plus 2, and then 3. So, okay, we take I am good. I choose. I trust that I am good equal love.
Right.
If you take all 3 of those together, love, choice, and trust, blend them together, you get love, yeah?
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, and choice being awareness also, of course. So,
right.
And trust being based on impeccability. You know, love cannot be based on anything else but impeccability either, right?
Right.
It can't. I mean, if you don't have that,
capital L,
then it's not love. Then it's not love.
Right.
Exactly. Love love without awareness gets little L love, and it causes all sorts of trouble. So love without choice, love without impeccability causes lots of trouble.
It's true. It's true.
Very, very cool. And of course, if you're making choices that aren't based on goodness, well, that are stemming from your goodness, well, also going to lead to trouble. And of course, then you aren't being impeccable either. So
true.
There you go.
True.
Yeah. So it all ties together. That's the magic of it. I love that glue that ties it all together. Brilliant. You gotta go. You gotta go. I don't want you to be late, Erica Jane.
Good luck with the roof. I hope. Yes. I hope you have money left over. No.
Me too. We're gonna find out. So yeah.
We'll intend it. We'll have a group intent for it to work out good.
There you go.
This is important. This is important. It's important.
All right. I'll see you Friday.
Okay.
Eric.
I'm really glad you were able to join.
Yeah, this was very cool. Very cool. Thanks.
Brilliant. That's magical.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Bye bye, Erica. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye, Beena.
Bye.
Bena's real quick bye.
She is freaking amazing, that girl.
That's something else. Just too beautiful.
Yeah.
Too beautiful.
I miss seeing her on.
Exactly. And you know, we say this, but we say it after every session with everybody. It's, you know, it's such a joy. Am I right, Beena? It's like everybody's so beautiful, so magical, so brilliant. It's just too fantastic. You know, it's such a joy. It's such a joy what we do, really.
Yeah.
It's such a joy. It's such a joy. But man, you know, I mean, what a seminar here. And we're only on point 3, and I think last time there was 8 of them. She had 5, and then it was on to 8, and there's probably going to be 12 by now.
That's too cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Again, it generates conversation. It generates other thoughts and perspectives. It's fabulous. It's just fabulous.
I want to at some point just take this, and you know, I think there may have been a break in the recording where I dropped off, and I don't know if it did or not, but cut out the part we were talking about France and all that, and just, you know, her list part.
Sure.
And you know, have this as or the previous one to somebody who's coming into the program and say, look, there you go. This is kind of what we're about. This gives you an idea. Now, you know, you can't take this as the end point for you and say, oh, okay, thank you. I got the end, and now I've got no. It is about all the stuff that went into that. I mean, on trust, we must have spent what, 2-3 months on trust.
Oh my God, I remember.
You know, and it was trust and choice. I know we focused on trust, but really it was because the trust came out of choice. So everything she said about trust was really about choice, and the two blending together. It was always the two for her. You know, because like she said, you know, trust came out. But still, you have to go through the process. You can't just get to the end conclusion. But it is at least, you know, very eye-opening to see, oh, you know what, this is not just promising. This is somebody who, and she made this list out of her own accord. Yes, we've made similar lists before, but you know, this wasn't a specific task. It's just the consequence of living deliberately, living with intent, living with awareness, and living with this intent to apply. And this came as a consequence of application. So it's another version of the dictionary of power. She's just taken her dictionary of power and essentially condensed it into the most key points in her dictionary of power.
Yeah.
because they all these points are in a dictionary of power, of course. So it's very, very cool. I absolutely love it. It's so
Yeah,
cool.
no, and I mean, it's funny. I mean, as soon as I said, "What a cool task," to do. What has really changed my life? And when I sat down, I went, "Brrr," I must,
Yes, yes,
and
yes,
I had to quick get some things down, and then I can either write
yes,
them, extrapolate, more from, or just talk
yes,
about them.
yes.
But
It's all in the timing. Yes,
yeah.
because this task is actually in module 8.
Oh, is it?
Yes, but
Oh,
it
that's
doesn't matter. That's the magic of the things.
yeah.
That we do them, but then they sit, they linger, they like these little seeds, and they start to grow, and then
Mhm.
later we root it. And this task is going to be redone at another point. It's a continual task, as Erica Jane also said.
You
It's
mean module 8 of
wave
of
impeccability. Right.
way of impeccability? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. In that recap, in there,
yeah.
the recap sessions, it's in there to make a list of how you've changed and what's really been transformative or what's been important. Now, the wording may be different, but it's the same task. It's
Yeah,
just what
I'm gonna go back and look and see what I wrote back then.
there you
That seems
go.
like
There you
forever ago.
go. Yes. And that's the beauty of it. Sometimes we go back and you say, wow, I haven't specifically been working on this, but simply having these conceptions inside me, living them every day. Oh my goodness. Wow. And then we get to it's phenomenal once we have those tools. They don't just become one use tools. They continue working all the time. They're like really magical tools, but once you start them, they keep working all the time. It's fantastic. I love
Yeah,
it. Magical.
crazy,
I love it.
crazy.
I love it. I love it. I'm so pleased here. She really enjoyed you being here. Erica
Yeah, yeah,
Jane.
yeah. Cool.
I
Very
love that
cool.
aspect of when and same with everybody else. When you have everybody when others come, and this gives me great joy. That community,
Hmm.
I really love it.
Hmm.
So over time, our Fridays will grow and we'll start doing that. So
Yeah,
instead of having it
yeah.
as an open Friday, to some maybe shift it to recap Friday. Since it's Friday, to
Hmm.
say, okay, where are we at this week? Your intents for the week. What have you really implemented? How's it connected? All the sessions, whatever you got out of it. All right, how we been using it? How's it? Where's the recap? Where's the overview? Where's the implementation? Where's the application? Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's very cool. Very, very cool. Very cool. Just love it. So I'm looking
Fabulous.
forward to Friday. That'd be cool. Very, very cool.
Well, all righty.
Yeah, and like I said,
Okay.
we're only on point 4, so we got lots to go. We got lots to go.
Ah,
But what gives me joy too is Erica Jane's articulation. It's
yeah, yeah.
same with
Oh,
you, everyone, Robin, Kay, everyone. Just when we start to actually think about things and think them through to the end, that dictionary of power, it's why it's a dictionary of power. It empowers us to be articulate. It's so fun.
mhm,
And look, we never ever really worked on expression and articulation specifically and deliberately. It was mentioned casually, like the goodness, because the way we do things, because of the repeat backs and the takeaways, it automatically leads to it. All people need to be expressive and to be articulate is a little bit of practice. You get
mhm,
that every single session because you bring in your takeaways, you bring in your repeat backs. So cool. It's
mhm.
it's built in other words. It's built in. It's built in. Yeah.
Crazy.
It's beautiful.
Good.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So magical. It gives me great joy. Great joy. All right. You gotta go or not?
Yeah, I need to run. So,
Brilliant.
okay. See you
Brilliant.
guys. Have a good
So
one.
good. Brilliant. How the test going? Just quickly before you go.
Good, good. Yeah, just lots of them scheduled. The month of November is
Okay.
crazy for tests,
Okay. Can I
but
can I confess a little secret intent that I have?
yeah, yeah, go
That
ahead.
the very last test, not that you fail it because that means something, but that you don't quite pass it to their standard. The very, very
Mhm.
last one.
Interesting. Interesting.
That's my little secret intent.
Wow. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a suspicion that I'm not going to make it to the end. But
Well, that's what
I'm
I'm
going.
hoping. That's what I'm hoping that it comes like right at the end, so that you
Mhm.
get the benefit of the process. You get
Yeah.
closer
Yeah.
to the you get closer to the decision, where it starts to get a little bit more real.
Oh,
But that's
it's
just me
getting more.
personally because I love you. Now I'm
Oh,
connected to you and not your friend, but for you, I have the intent that it works out absolutely the best. As I said, that's my private intent, but I'm very cautious to not have my private intents interfere with somebody else's. They can sometimes. So it has to work out. My big intent is that, hey, works out absolutely perfect for you in whatever way, shape, or form. Right. So my private intent is first that one. If there's some room in that to accommodate my intent, okay, thank you. But if not, no problem. So it's just, also just kind of a good little point on intent itself. And when we have intents which concern others, to me, always every single intent that concerns others has to be subservient to the intent that what happens is best for them.
Yeah.
For them, not according to me, and not even according to them, but according to really what's best for them.
Yeah. And I think my intent going into it was, it's the best of what's going to come out of this situation for me.
Absolutely. This is what I'm enjoying about all of this. You had impeccable intent, you have impeccable intent, and you being impeccable. This entire thing is an application of impeccability and attunement also. It is just phenomenal. It is phenomenal implementation and application. It's just awesome. It's just awesome. Yeah. Really
And again, it feels right because it was attunement, it was alignment.
Exactly. And there's a joy to it, right? There's a joy to it. I mean, you even enjoy going to the tests, for crikey's sake. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Yeah, I don't mind because it gives me, I learn something from them. I don't see
Exactly. And there's a purpose to it. And that purpose is attunement. When we live in attunement like this, even onerous things that were previously onerous become a joy in a peculiar way. It is really something profound because there's a moreness to it, there's a rightness to it, there's a goodness to it, and that rightness to it, that makes whatever you got to do, makes it a joy. Never mind bearable and tolerable, no, makes it a joy. In a strange way, yes, I mean but it's still a joy. It's not like we masochists, no, but there's still a joy to it. It's astonishing. It's astonishing what it does. This is the real magic of attunement, and I really love this because attunement is the one session and module that is so difficult to express and articulate. And when we finish with it, it always feels like there's more. And there is, but it needs to come organically like this. So the more of the attunement module is after the fact, like in cases like this. So it is fantastic because this decision was completely made in attunement. Yes? That's it.
Absolutely.
Everything fit into place. There wasn't even a thought to it, really. It was just like, well, okay, I want to do this. It just fit. It just fit. It was just right. Yes?
There was no questioning it. It was it.
That's it.
It was it. Yeah.
Very magical. Very magical. So perfect. So beautiful, too. And it's a great joy to be, a part of this, to witness it. It's a big deal. Right, Beena? For you, too, I imagine?
Yes.
Yeah. Such a joy to see. Yeah. Anything to add? I wanted to get some, input from you before Erica Jane left. Anything on all that, Beena? And on this, what we're talking about, the Sue, both.
For Erica, we have discussed all these things. Erica already shared day before yesterday, I guess, and I have shared my perspective on love and on happiness and on that too. So that was a good thing to share that because it is now more. She is articulating it really, really, really amazingly well. So to hear that, and for Sue again, I was just, I still from the beginning, I'm feeling that just being there, being in that process is beneficial for that patient. So being there is a good thing because it is activating all the energy there, and somehow something will happen for that patient also because Sue is really caring about him. So, and she wants to do that, Sue. So that's why I'm feeling that your energy will activate that, and your intent that this thing to happen will make it a reality for him, and it is going to. Now I have strong faith in that, and I really. Happen. Personally, I don't want you to go to that process.
We're a bit selfish, but it can't be helped, It's like, well, we have the same thing, but,
Yeah, but okay, it is good that you are going through that process, your intent, and you are doing it. It is like thinking it through to the end, actually. It is the application right there. You are doing that. And again, I have this trust in your intent and in your energy. When you will go, you are going there, it is going to activate, and somehow something will happen beneficial for him.
I hope so.
Oh yeah.
I said to him,
of this, I have no doubt, actually.
yeah,
Because we see how you have power and how things manifest and materialize
Yes.
in really profound ways. So we see
yeah.
this.
He was so sweet. I checked in. I just told him, listen, I'm still, going through the tests and everything like that. I said, I'm just checking in to see how you're doing. And what did he say to me? He said, I said, is anyone else doing this that you know of?
Yes,
And
you mentioned. Yeah.
because the people at the donor place can't they can't say a word.
Correct. They're
Now,
not allowed to.
for
Right.
HIPAA laws especially.
Right.
But she said you can converse with the recipient if you know him, so I said to Rick, is there anybody else? Because there's a pressure that's on there kind of too, like stay healthy, be that person for him,
Yeah. It's important. Yeah, good
yeah.
question. Yeah.
And he said that 3 other people are also in the process of doing this, plus others from him posting it on the billboard, in town. But he said, I'm not privy to that information because they're going strictly through the donor, and he doesn't know them. So it's just marvelous how these complete strangers. But he said, so potentially, I have some other people doing this. He said, I want to thank you so much. He said, for being one of my angels. He said,
Gateway Sue.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very sweet.
Open that gateway. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
So-
one other thing though, real quick. Sorry, Beena, hold that for me, please. 1 second. I want to say, if it comes to the point where you do this, you will have Beena and I's full intent and support and joy and appreciation. Our predilections, our choices now will be completely different then. Then we will be completely 100% into it in terms of intent for goodness, for you coming out of it, healing quickly, all of this stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, the two don't go together. It's not like, once it happens. No. At that point, our things completely disappear and go out the window, and now it's a new intent, right, Beena? Not that we have the intent now. Like I said, the intent is for it to work out for the best. We have our private hopes that's the best, but that's our private hopes. It's not conditional, it's not locking in, it's not affecting anything. It's very important to be aware of the subtleties. Why I'm bringing it up, because it's again this moreness, this finesse of managing intent. Yeah, it's very important to be aware of this, because otherwise, you can cause trouble.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, and I can't deny the way I feel either, but I want to balance it. Right?
Yeah. No, thank you guys so much. That's very appreciated. Yeah.
It's a joy to be a part of this. Really and truly. It's like, man, I can't say how much it's a joy. It's really a joy. It's really a joy. Did you get to ask the docs all those questions?
But no, I go there in November to ask.
Oh, November. Okay. I'm just waiting for them to say, what the hell? Who put you up to these questions? Where did these come from? I was like, come on, seriously? Put them, but yeah. It'll be good,
What were you going to say, Beena? Beena, what were you going to say?
Sorry, Beena. Yes, please. Sorry, I forgot.
I was just saying that Sue, first I didn't use the word intent, because this is not an intent that, okay, this is not. I said, okay, I just really hope for that. I'm hoping for that.
Yes.
This is something personal. You cannot deny that you have feelings and you have attachments.
Yeah.
And it is impeccable for me to have these feelings for you. And from the beginning, it is something coming up that I'm so sure you doing that, of course, it's the most beneficial thing for him. And of course, for you also, because it is about the having the pure goodness.
Yeah.
Pure goodness. This is love. What else we were talking about. This is what love is. You are doing this. There is no replacement for your kidney. What I gonna do for you? You are doing this. This is what love is. Okay, and in the quote unquote way we use the term love. Okay, I have other perspective on love too, but the normal way. And again, so your intent is going to manifest no matter how other intents people are having for you. No,
Exactly.
it's not going to affect that, because it's a very pure intent.
Yes.
And
Because
the
it's
other
an intent to appropriateness.
yes,
Not a
exactly.
specific consequence, but appropriateness. You set an
Yes.
intent to do what's appropriate. However that pans out, you're following the
right.
path.
That's
That's
right.
it. And this makes it a pure intent. How can we have anything else but that as our intent, really? The initial starting point doesn't really matter. But if we're impeccable, it's always an intent to appropriateness. Always. Right? Right, Beena?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
No,
cool. So cool.
was the appropriate thing to do. And that's how I
Exactly.
felt right from the beginning. And,
Exactly.
long time ago, Bill may have changed my mind in some form or another.
Yeah.
No, I said, this I need to do
As
for me.
appropriate, as appropriate.
Yeah.
And I think despite Bill's reservations, the way I know Bill a little bit already, I think he does appreciate and respect where you're at and love you.
Oh, he does. He does. His concern is for himself.
Of
So
course, and that's fair enough. It's a
and fair
balance.
enough. Fair
Yes,
enough.
yes. We can have apparent contradiction coexist.
Yeah.
We can.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
this is one of our magical lessons of moreness. You know,
Yeah.
Donna, we've been over this so many times with Donna. I always think of her as being this exemplar of reconciling apparent contradictions. They are, but they aren't. They can live together. They can.
Mhm.
They can. And in a beautiful,
Yep.
magical dance. It's a magical thing. Very,
Yeah.
very, very beautiful. So really cool.
Very cool. He's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
No,
very
I
cool
feel
indeed.
good about it. And I'm not
Yes,
going
and
to
that's
change
what we're
my mind.
enjoying. We're enjoying you feeling good and your joy and your purpose and that focus. And,
Mhm.
it's just the whole thing as an exemplification and exhibition of, not that you're exhibiting it, but an exemplification of impeccability. So we can, you can have a title too now, exemplar of impeccability.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah,
Take it.
yeah,
Take it.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Ah, all right.
Exemplar. Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
yeah. I love
Ah,
it. I love it. It's a cool word. As
yeah.
a noun, it's a noun also, an exemplar. Yeah,
An exemplar.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
hmm
That's a
Yeah.
noun.
Very cool.
Yeah, very
All
good.
righty. All
All right,
right.
we shall
Thanks.
see you tomorrow. I'm
You
looking
bet.
forward to that.
You
Very
bet.
cool.
All right. See you
I'm
guys.
pleased that I basically spent 10, 11 hours getting the internet to work, and we got it working. It is very cool. And it was cool. I mean, I dropped off, but that's because my background went away, and
Uh,
I wanted to refresh it, but then it took too much, and that's what caused the trouble. So it's my own fault.
okay. Got it.
Otherwise, it would have been fine. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I
okay.
basically got to do just Zoom and nothing else. That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sharing it. It's I've got the internet connection on the phone,
hmm
to a neighboring Wi-Fi, and
Neighbors.
this is
Yeah.
being shared via Bluetooth to you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
quite the operation, but we got it
Yeah.
working. Right.
Well, it was up to you to figure that one out. I would have never been able to figure that.
Because there's so
Yeah.
much non-obvious stuff. It's amazing, but it's
Yeah.
very cool. It's very cool.
Cool.
It's very cool. So, all right,
Okay,
brilliant.
guys.
See you
See you
tomorrow,
tomorrow
Sue. See you
morning.
tomorrow. Yeah.
See.
Yes.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Yes.
Bye bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye
Okay.
for now.